All right. Hello, everybody. This is James Wilson with MTB Strength Training Systems and BikeJames.com. And today I wanted to talk to you about standing pedaling and the standing position in general and why it is something that you need to master as a rider, and then give you some tips on how to improve it. So, why do you want to worry about this in the first place, right? So, in my opinion, standing pedaling, getting good at the standing position and the standing pedaling position is one of the biggest upgrades that you can make to your riding. When you get strong and smooth with standing up and standing pedaling, it's going to unlock a lot of things for your riding. So, unfortunately, though, a lot of riders, most riders, when we start out, standing pedaling is not something that comes naturally. It's not an easy position to be in. And so we get the advice from a lot of well-meaning people to avoid the standing position because we're told that it's less efficient, which it's not. We're told that you need to be sitting down to, keep traction on your rear wheel when you climb, which isn't true. And so there's a lot of like myths and misunderstanding about the standing position in general. And so a lot of riders get shackled to their seat. They rely way too much on sitting down. And so it really holds back their ability to improve as a rider. And so once you get better at this, it really, like I said, unlocks a lot of things for you. So first of all, what does standing up and standing pedaling do for you? Like, why should you care about this? So first off, standing up is where all of your technical skills come from, right? You think about any technical skill, whether it's cornering, doing manuals, jumps, bunny hops, drops. I mean, you name it, and you have to stand up to do it. Even things like switchbacks are way easier to execute when you're able to stand up and do it from that standing position. So it's going to really unlock your ability to execute your technical skills. If you don't feel strong and stable when you stand up and then you're trying to execute your skills from a weak, unstable position, you're going to struggle with it. It doesn't matter how much you practice until you get strong and stable in your standing position, you're going to struggle with your technical skills. The other thing is that standing up lets you access your strongest, most powerful pedal stroke, right? Like if you think about it, you see pro riders sprinting for the finish line. They're not sitting down while they're doing it. They're standing up and hammering. So standing up is where you're going to be able to get your strongest, most powerful pedal stroke. And again, if you're able to use that as a strength instead of like this weak thing that you barely go to, it's going to give you a huge advantage. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about is that standing up is going to make it easier for you on technical climbs. Again, it's one thing just kind of like grinding up a smooth fire road or something like that. But if you've got any sort of technical element in a climb, standing up is going to make it way easier for you to get through that climb, because now you can actually maneuver your bike to get up and over things. Standing up makes it easier for you to use quarter and half pedal strokes to avoid pedal strikes. Again, a lot of people that struggle with pedal strikes, they rely way too much on the sit and spin method of trying to get through everything. And so when you stand up and you got a little more tension at your pedals and you're able to use quarter and half pedal strokes, you're able to time your pedal strokes better to avoid pedal strikes rather than just like praying that you make it through with the sit and spin mentality. So technical climbs are actually way easier when you stand up. Another thing is when you stand up, you can, quote unquote, cheat and use your body weight to help with your pedal stroke rather than just relying on leg strength. Again, when you're sitting down, then it's just leg strength driving it. When you stand up, now you can actually get your body weight behind your pedal stroke and use that. And so it'll actually make it a little easier. Again, this is one of the reasons that standing up delivers a more powerful pedal stroke, is because it allows you to do that. The other thing is when you stand up, you are in a more upright position. Okay, so when you are in the standing position, you're able to get of your hips under you a little bit more, which is going to put your low back and your core in a better position. And the other thing is it takes stress off of your neck. So if you think about it, when you're sitting down, you're really having to crane your neck and look up higher than compared to when you're standing up. So when you're standing up, you're able to keep your neck in a more neutral and natural position, which takes a lot of stress off of your neck. So, I mean, a lot of riders out there struggle with neck pain, and this is directly related to spending way too much time sitting down and having to crane their neck up in order to look down the trail. And again, vision and your ability to look down the trail is a really important part of your skills and just your ability to see what's coming and be able to prepare for it. So the other thing that it does is it takes stress off of the little sensitive parts in your crotch. And so again, this is, when you stand up, you're not sitting on the seat, you're taking that stress off of your crotch. And again, it's something a lot of riders struggle with. They've got seats made with cutouts, you've got padded shorts. I mean, you got an entire industry around how to relieve pressure and make it easier on your crotch when you're riding. Well, just stand up, right? When you're standing up, you're taking that pressure off. And so again, like I've never owned a pair of padded riding shorts. Okay. And this isn't because I don't, ride a bunch. I've gone for, huge long rides, multi-day, trips. And I'm standing up and I'm riding with people who have all of the things, right? They've got the seats, they've got the padded shorts, they've got the chamois butter, all that stuff. And by the end of the trip, they're still struggling with their crotch hurting, and I'm fine, right? And so again, this is directly related to standing up and doing it at the right time, which is something that I'll cover here as I get into this more. But again, understanding when to stand up and when to sit down is a really important thing. But just, remember, standing up takes that pressure off of your crotch. And so if your sensitive bits down there are important to you, then this is something to consider as well. So the last thing is that you will gain a huge advantage over riders who are shackled to their seat. Again, a rider who can stand up more, who can access standing pedaling more easily, they're going to have a performance advantage. And so if you want to improve your performance, and especially compared to other riders in your riding group, then getting strong with standing pedaling in your standing position is going to give you a huge advantage over those guys. In fact, it's, I can't tell you how many times I've had people try to tell me while, on group rides, like, dude, you're going to wear yourself out standing up so much. And I'm like, I got to wait to hear what they're telling me at the top of the hill. Right. Cause like, I'm so much further ahead of them hammering up these hills that, and by the end of the ride, I'm totally fine, because again, once you understand how to do it right and you get strong with it, which are what I'm going to go into next, standing up and standing pedaling is actually easier in a lot of ways than seated pedaling. Because if you think about it, like when you're sitting down, right, like people say like sitting is the new smoking, like sitting down is not like super healthy for your body. And so when you're sitting down in like kind of a fetal position, hunched over, it's hard to keep your lower back straight. Your back isn't in a great position. Your core's not as engaged as well. You're not able to get your hips as engaged as well. And so it's a really like unnatural position for us to be creating movement and power from. If you think about it, I mean, there's very few sports that require you to sit down and create movement and power. And so standing up and the position that your body is in is a much more natural place for you to be to do that. So it's just a overall just kind of healthier on your body position as well. So standing pedaling is going to be hard at first, but that's only because you have to build the skills and specific strength needed to get good at it. And once you develop these things, once you get past that learning curve and the strength curve, then you're going to be way stronger with it. And it's not going to be hard anymore, right? You're never going to look back and go back to relying too much on seated pedaling once you get past those initial curves. So again, there is a curve, right? You're not going to go out on your next ride after listening to this and start standing up more and be like, oh, wow, this is easy. It's not how it works, right? You're going to have to spend some time developing the skills, developing the specific strength, but you'll be surprised at how quickly that will happen, because again, you're in a more natural position when you are standing up. And so your body's going to adapt to it pretty quickly. So just give yourself, I'd say like, a month or two of really working on your standing pedaling. And by that time, you're going to be way better at it. And it's going to be a completely different experience for you. So don't draw too many conclusions based on your first couple rides trying to stand up more. Give yourself some time to get strong, develop the skills and adapt to it. And then start to make judgments based on it. So to help you with those things though, I've got some technique tips and some strength tips to help you with that, to help speed that curve up. So when it comes to technique tips, the first thing that I would advise is that you use a midfoot position. One of the reasons that standing pedaling feels so hard for most riders is they are on the ball of their foot. And if you're on the ball of your foot and your heel is hanging in space, it puts a lot of stress on your calf and Achilles tendon. It's an unbalanced position for you to be in. I mean, just imagine trying to do anything balanced on your toes, anything athletic balanced on the balls of your feet. It's extremely difficult to do. And so a midfoot position is going to create a more balanced, stable position for your foot. And it's also going to allow you to use your hips better. Again, in the gym, one of the reasons that we're not told to get up on the ball of our foot. In fact, we're told to like keep your foot flat, drive through your heel if your foot is coming off of the ground, really emphasize that heel drive if you need to. And the reason for that is because that's what helps recruit the hips. Again, the hips are where the glutes and the hamstring meet. That is the strongest muscle in your body. And so you want to be able to optimize that. And you're going to have a tough time doing that if you're on the ball of your foot. And so a midfoot position will create a more balanced, stable position, allow you to recruit the hips better, and it'll make a big difference in how standing pedaling feels compared to being on the ball of your foot. The next piece of advice I have for you is to shift your weight forward onto your hands. Now, again, this is where the advice for light hands, heavy feet, I got a real problem with that. I've got several articles on my website at bikejames.com. In fact, one of them called like, are we misapplying light hands, heavy feet to the bike? So you can go and check that out there for more info. But again, it's a well-intentioned piece of advice. But if you don't understand like really kind of the thought process behind it, it can make it harder for you, especially when you stand up. It's extremely difficult to stand up and be strong and stable if you are trying to maintain light hands and heavy feet. And so shifting some weight forward onto your hands will definitely help with the standing position. It's going to be that's what's going to let you shift your hips forward so that you can get more hip drive into the pedal stroke. And it's going to just make it easier for you. Another thing that riders struggle with when they stand up is pedal bob, right? And so one of the reasons for that is because they're keeping so much weight on their feet. In fact, I would say most riders don't get into a standing pedaling position or a standing position. They get into an unweighted seated position. They just basically raise their butt up off of the seat and they kind of keep their body in the same basic position. And all of that weight over your pedals is going to make it hard for you to stabilize your body. You basically want to be able to hover over your bike and be able to pedal without a lot of input from your body. Okay. And so that's what's going to get rid of that pedal bob is to get some weight on the hands and get a little bit of get your hips forward and be able to hold yourself and hover over the bike rather than have all your weight on your feet. So this does lead to my next tip though, is understanding where to put your hips at the right time is important, right? And so if you are on a climb and there's loose traction, now you do need to shift your hips back so that your hips are further back so your weight is over your rear wheel. And again, people get the things mixed up. They think that I need to be sitting down. I need my butt on my seat to keep traction on the rear wheel. It's not your butt being on the seat. It's where your hips are. And when your butt is on the seat, your hips are back, so your weight is over the rear wheel. And so it's that weight over the rear wheel that is creating traction, not your butt being attached to the seat. And so you can shift your hips back and create that same weight distribution on your bike without sitting down on the seat. In fact, when you're sitting on the seat, your hips are kind of locked in space. They're in one spot. So you can't make subtle shifts with your hips forward and back in order to maximize your traction. So sitting down actually makes it harder, in my opinion, to maintain traction on climbs, especially when you understand how to use your hips properly. So when you are, in a position where you're not having to worry about the rear wheel traction, or there's not something directly in front of you where, like, if your weight's on the front end and you hit it, obviously you don't want to be like weight on the front end and just like run into a rock that's going to send you over the handlebars, right? So your weight's forward though, and you shift the weight back and it unweights the front end. This is another reason that standing up is actually a safer way to ride, because it makes it easier for you to use weight shifts to get up and over stuff instead of just relying on your suspension and just smashing into everything on the trail. So stand up, shift your weight forward when you don't need your weight back, right? If you're not having to unweight the front end to get up and over a trail obstacle, or you don't need your weight on the rear wheel to create traction. And so again, there's a time and a place for both, and understanding where to put your hips at the right time is going to make standing up and standing pedaling a way more effective position for you. So another thing is to not be afraid to seesaw your handlebars. Right now, there's definitely a time and a place to keep your handlebars level and try and minimize that input. But seesawing your handlebars back and forth will also make standing up and standing pedaling easier for you. So when you're got my notes here, so I'm shifting to my second page. So when you seesaw the handlebars, it actually shortens the length that your leg has to travel to complete the pedal stroke, and it puts some mechanical energy into the pedal stroke, so it's not just your leg energy as well. And so the seesawing the handlebars will actually help with that as well. And so something that I've already talked about is using seated and standing pedaling at the right time. It's not that you never want to sit down. One of the things that happens when I start talking about standing pedaling, people take it to this extreme and they're like, oh, James, you're telling me to just like stand up all the time. Like that's impossible. It's like, yeah, that's impossible. I mean, unless you're going for like a very short ride, it's going to be extremely hard to just stand up the whole time. So it's understanding when to use seated pedaling and when to use standing pedaling. And so in my opinion, seated pedaling is great for easy, low tension efforts. So basically sitting down when things are easy, you're not having to create a lot of tension in your core to either, absorb impacts or maneuver your bike or pedal. Again, like there's it's a concept that I have called high tension versus low tension efforts, right? And it's kind of an internal thing. There's not this like, I can say like, this is exactly when this goes from low tension to high tension. But you know instinctively, like, okay, when I'm having to like create more tension in my body, when I'm having to lock down a little bit more to do whatever it is that I'm doing, whenever you get into that high tension mode, standing up is going to serve you way better than sitting down. And so you use your seated pedaling for low tension, easy kind of recovery efforts, and stand up when things get hard and you need that high tension mode. And so again, understanding when to use seated and standing pedaling is what is going to make your riding just skyrocket, right? So again, so many riders, they just get locked into seated pedaling. They use it all the time at all costs and very rarely go into standing pedaling mode unless they have to. And so again, you're holding yourself back if that's what you're doing. You want to use them both at the right time. So some strength tips to help you with this, because again, there's technique that will help you, but there is specific strength that you need to help you as well. So one of the things is upper body strength. Like I was mentioning before with the technique thing, like shifting some weight forward onto your handlebars and using your upper body to help you kind of hover over the bike as opposed to just having all of your weight being held up by your feet is going to help. But this does take upper body and core strength to do. And so this is where the strength training comes in. And so things like push-ups, things like bench press or dumbbell bench press, even things like planks will help you build that upper body and core strength that you need to support yourself properly when you're standing up and being able to create that kind of hovering position that you're looking for when you're standing up. Another thing is to improve your squat pattern. So when you stand up, you go into more of a squat pattern as opposed to when you're sitting down, you're more of like in a hinge pattern. And so again, the hinge pattern is where your butt is back and your chest is down, kind of like the attack position or the downhill position. When you're standing up, you want your hips forward more and your chest more upright. And so this is more of a squat pattern that you're using when you're standing up. And so if you struggle with your squat pattern and you're not strong with it, then you're going to struggle with standing up and standing pedaling. And so you may need to start with just getting good mobility and the ability to just do a body weight squat properly. So you may need to just start with doing some stretching and mobility work in your hips to get them loosened up. and then just start with body weight squats and get to where you master the body weight movement. Next thing I would suggest is working on isometric strength. So getting to where you can hold just a deep body weight squat for 90 seconds is, in my mind, just a basic strength that you should have as a rider. So if you're struggling to hold a deep body weight squat for 90 seconds, then that's just a low hanging fruit, man. You don't need any equipment. You can do that at home on your own. So just, throw in some isometrics. I'm a huge fan of isometrics in general, but especially when it comes to building the strength that you need for your squat pattern when it comes to, to standing up. And so, so the next thing is to work on your unilateral strength. And so I got a comment here on the live. And so, yes, first time doing a webinar. I have done these a little bit in the past, but it's something I'm planning on doing more of. And so, yeah, if you guys like this, let me know, and I can work on setting up like a regular time and place for doing these things. But yeah, I really enjoy doing these things. So something I'm going to be doing more of moving forward. But yeah, so moving on into the next strength tip, because standing pedaling, at the end of the day, it is a unilateral movement, right? You are using one leg at a time. So while your bilateral squat is important, your unilateral strength is also super important. But the way that I suggest that you build it is a little bit different than what you may have seen some other places. There are a lot of great exercises for building unilateral strength, right? But in my mind, if we're talking about specificity and the things that are going to be most specific to what we're going to do on the bike, I really like the staggered stance, or I've also heard it called like a kickstand stance squat. And so what this is when you're standing with your feet hip width apart and you just take a small step back with one leg and you're basically balancing on your toes. So you're basically creating like a single leg position with a kickstand behind you. Now, the thing with a kickstand is you don't want to put a lot of weight on a kickstand, right? Because it's not designed to take weight. It's just designed to create a little bit extra balance. And so you want to keep all of your weight on the front leg, but you've got this little kickstand behind you for some balance. And then you can do your squats from that position, the stagger stance squat position. And so this actually creates a movement pattern that is really close to what you use on the bike when you're standing pedaling. So you want to be careful though when you're doing this that you don't step too far back, because then it starts to turn into a lunge, right? So you step too far back and it's really hard to not keep some weight on that rear leg. It's just the weight shifts back so far when you step so far back that you're going to put weight on that rear leg. And again, it's not that lunges aren't good. I love lunges. I do lunges. I recommend them. But if we're trying to build that unilateral strength, then the stagger stance position is, in my opinion, a better way to do it, because again, you're able to keep pretty much all of your weight on the front leg and just using that rear leg that you've just taken a slight step back with, and you're balanced on the ball of your foot. In fact, that's a good kind of measure for it. If you find that your heel is going to the ground and that rear leg is going flat, then you're probably getting too far back. And so keeping balanced on your toes and a small step back and really just trying to focus 90+% of your weight on the front leg is going to really help you develop that unilateral strength, iron out any strength imbalances that you have, because you want to make sure you're not like, super strong with one leg and weaker in the other. And so, so make sure that you're using the stagger stance squats to help you with that. So, so that's, the pretty basic tips there. Like that's what I would suggest that you guys do to help you with your standing position. Again, from the technique side, right? Midfoot position. Don't be afraid to shift weight forward onto your hands, looking to hover over the bike as opposed to like having all your weight on your feet, which creates a lot of pedal bob. Understanding when to shift your weight back. So if you're trying to unweight the front end or you're trying to create traction on your rear wheel, you will need to shift the hips back into a little bit more of a hinge position. All those things will help from a technique side. And then from a strength side, just getting strong with your upper body strength, upper body stability, get your squat pattern down, and working on those staggered stance squats to help you with that specific strength that you need on the bike. So again, applying these things and then or doing these things and then applying them to the trail, you'll find that standing pedaling is going to get way easier for you. And again, I find that when you get good with standing pedaling, riding is just so much more fun, right? It unlocks fun mode for you. So you can just, you can hammer, you're pedaling stronger. You're able to execute your skills easier. You're going to take stress off of your neck and off of your crotch. And so it just creates a more fun, less painful riding experience for you once you get down, understand and get better with your standing position and standing pedaling. So a couple things to help you guys with this. I do have a manual I put together on skills that really focuses on movement behind the skills. So again, a lot of riders, I find it's not that the technique is definitely an issue, but there's a movement problem behind it as well. And you can't fix a movement problem with technique. You've got to get the movement ironed out first, and then you can apply the technique better. And so I call it the underground skills training handbook, because a lot of the advice that I have in there is, quote unquote, underground. It's not the most common stuff that you'll find. But you can find that on my site at bikejames.com. Just go and do a search for underground skills training handbook, and you'll find the page where you can sign up and get that. But in there, I've got a lot of tips to go beyond this, right? I go into like everything that you need to do on your bike, but there's a whole section dedicated to standing, so the standing position and standing pedaling. And so there's actually a lot of videos that I link to in there that cover a lot of these concepts that I'm talking about. So again, I know talking about them may be a little hard to visualize, but if you get that underground skills training handbook, you'll be able to find videos in there that will explain them as well. And then the other thing I would strongly recommend to help with your standing pedaling is to, use flat pedals in general, but specifically the Catalyst pedal, the pedal that I invented and have out there. You can find it at pedalinginnovations.com, or just do a search for Catalyst pedal. But again, the concept behind this pedal is that it's long enough so that it can connect both ends of your arch, so that you can achieve a true midfoot position, and you've got both ends of your arch supported. So when you stand up, it feels like you're standing on the ground. You're not balancing on your tiptoes. There's no, kind of unbalanced. You're either like toes tipping forward or heel drop back. It's like your foot is balanced, and you can shift your weight as you want. So if you want to point the toes down, that's fine. If you want to point the heels down, that's fine. But you're not like either or, right? And you're able to achieve like a more balanced position. And because you've got the back end of the arch supported, you're able to recruit your hips better. And so you'll be able to actually like feel your hips working much more effectively on the Catalyst pedal than you can on, pretty much any other pedal out there. Because, so far, I've had this pedal out for years now, and it's still the longest pedal. You'll notice since I came out with this pedal, it's probably been about like 8 years ago, flat pedals have been getting bigger, right? So obviously the industry is admitting that there's something to a bigger flat pedal, but no one's willing to go to the extreme that I have and just give you the full length that you need to connect both ends of your arch and get off the ball of the foot. So you don't need a concave design. You don't need all these crazy things to try to cradle the ball of the foot. Once you get your foot strong and stable and supported like it's supposed to be, it unlocks a lot of this. And so the Catalyst pedal will totally change your standing experience and make standing up and standing pedaling way easier for you. So, but again, even if you don't get the Catalyst pedal, flat pedals are better, and using a midfoot position, or at least as close as you can get with whatever pedals that you have, is going to help as well. So anyways, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. You guys can find out more tips and stuff like that at bikejames.com. If you're not signed up for my newsletter, that's where you can do it there. And so I send out, weekly training tips to help you improve your riding, improve your strength, improve your fitness. I cover all sorts of stuff, breathing, isometrics, a lot of things that you're not necessarily going to find in some other, training spots. And they're all specifically geared for mountain biking. So again, understanding, good strength training stuff is great, but understanding how it applies to mountain biking and how you can use it to improve your movement on the bike is really helpful as well. So go check me out at bikejames.com. You guys got any questions about any of this stuff, you can find me at james@bikejames.com. I'm always happy to help. So yeah, if you guys have enjoyed this, let me know, and I'll be doing more of them in the future. And so I will talk to everybody next time.